So this is a really difficult, quite an uncomfortable video for me to make. Since I was younger, since I was a teenager, I've really, really struggled with, I think that, it's difficult because, like, I think when you're speaking about, like, mental health, I think that there's such, like, so many really weird stigmas attached to it and so many really weird, like, almost, like, ownership of like, people who, God, it's so, yeah, I feel so uncomfortable, like, speaking about stuff like this, because I really, 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 like, it's so difficult to be honest and to be, like, to, like, even know how to describe or, like, speak about this type of thing with other people. Because, like, now, I'm so much better than I was. Like, when I was probably, well, I think it's easier to start to say, when I was, when I started uni, I was a very, very, very angry, very upset person. I felt like the world had done me wrong almost. I felt like downtrodden by what had happened to me. I felt like I was like a victim of, like, my own life, and, like, I was just so defeatist. Like, defeatist? I don't know if that's a word. I felt I just was a depleted person. I was very, very negative, very pessimistic, that type of thing. And my anger was always the most difficult thing to control. And when I speak about, like, when I mentioned ownership earlier, it's difficult to explain what I'm trying to say by that. But, like, I think when somebody feels like if you feel, or if you feel like you're mentally not very well, which I know for a fact I haven't been for since I was 15. But other people can take your issues, your problems, and I've experienced people using my mental health, like my mental health issues against me, and almost, like, demonizing me as a person, which I think is one of the hardest things to have to cope with when you already demonize yourself anyway. It's, like, so difficult to try and deal with anyway. And when I started uni, I was so angry at the world. I was so angry with how I was so, because, like, I'm not a bad or nasty person at all, but I wasn't very nice at all. And that stemmed from anger. When I started uni and started to try and make friends, I'd been very lucky that where I'm from, which is Huddersfield, I'm actually at home now, in Huddersfield, and I think that this is why it's a good time to make this video, because when I'm in this bedroom now, which, like, you can see, I feel that it's so weird, but, like, I feel so strange sometimes being home. Like, I absolutely love my bedroom, like, now. I love being home with my family, I love my house, everything like that. But this bedroom holds so many connotations for me. Like, I spent, like, 5 years in this bedroom not sleeping every night, and, like, I struggled so much. Like, this was almost where, this room was where sort of my mental health unravelled. And that's an awful thing to say, because it's so nice. I do love it here, and I really don't want my mum to think that I don't like coming back, because I do. But yeah, no, that was slightly a bit of a tangent. But when I used to come back after uni, I had my room completely redecorated, because I did say, like I did mention to my parents, like I can't, every time I come back, like I feel like I'm sort of coming back to this like horrible like memory trap. And it's all been painted, it's all different now, but like I still just have this really strange feeling sometimes when I come home, especially like at night, like I just get this like, feel that like thing in like just, I don't know. But basically when I lived in Huddersfield, that was when I was younger, that was when I was at my worst, definitely. And that was because I had a really shit thing happen to me, and I had a lot of shit things happen to me in a very close space of time. And I will describe that. I'll share that in this video, and then I will make another video, I think, explaining how difficult that transition was from living, from living at home, and then moving to a new place, and what that did for me and my mental well-being. I don't know if that's the right word. So basically, I'm very, very, very lucky to have a really, really, really fantastic, strong and tight-knit family, and a very, very strong, tight-knit friendship group in Huddersfield. But when I was brought up in a way which was very, very, very protected, I had absolutely no idea about what the real world was, and like how to deal with real issues, because I was lucky enough when I was younger not to have anything bad happen to me or anything like that. So when I got to about 15, 16, and obviously parents can only protect you from the world so much, and then unfortunately I had a chain of really bad things happen, and from not ever having to cope with anything bad happening to having to cope with a lot of very distressing things in the space of a few years, my mental health just absolutely deteriorated, because I had absolutely no idea how to cope with things. So I'll start off sort of where it began. So my best friend Lucy, from home, when she was 15 and I was 16, Lucy's boyfriend Charlie died, and Charlie was a good friend of mine, and his death was really sudden, and that was the first experience of death I ever had to deal with, and Charlie was 15. So having that been the first like experience of death in my life anyway, and the repercussions of what happened with our group of friends from that was one of the most difficult things, and that sort of set off this like chain of distress for me anyway. So unfortunately when Charlie passed away, Lucy, my friend Lucy, I really hope that, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me explaining this story, because Lucy's battled with mental health a lot, and she's absolutely come out of the other end, and I'm so proud of her for that. But yeah, so she was obviously absolutely devastated, and it was just very, very, very difficult to have to try and everybody had to try and be strong for Lucy, because Lucy obviously was in such a terrible position at this point. Unfortunately, as we're all in our teens, like 15, 16, 17, people just slowly started to go, away from the situation and avoid us, in a sense, which was really difficult because I guess you think a lot of the time when something really terrible happens, people come together and it makes you like a stronger unit. But unfortunately, in this case, that happened, of course, for a few months, and then slowly but surely, I guess, as everybody sort of moved on, it almost became a very detached group of people who I think held a lot of resentment to the situation because it obviously is just so devastating. So that sort of began this sort of experience for me where I didn't know how to cope with what was going on, didn't know how to cope with these events, and I didn't know how to cope with how other people were coping. Because obviously, detaching yourself from a situation like that is a coping mechanism. Oh, this feels so hard. I really don't like it. No, I might just leave that one there.